Good morning. Happy Friday, guys. Coming from the Higher Power Studios. Shout out to Gary Hire, which we have just got information on. If you guys remember him from episode 2, took this crazy state-of-the-art kind of test from City of Hope, and he has 0% cancer.
Wow.
Not to say cancer-free, because...
But 0%,
right,
in the results.
Right. And this man, like if you guys remember from episode 2, he has cancer. It came into remission twice. He took this whole CBD, pH water approach, and now he's been deemed cancer-free almost.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, if you guys want more information on that, go back to episode 2. Also go to higherpower.net. Hear that story. It's an amazing story. And if you want, man, like I said, follow the guy, hear him out.
Yeah. If you know someone that has cancer or has just recently diagnosed or just anything like that, and they want some more information, he's an open book. Hit him up. He'll talk to you. He'll give you his background, his information, what he did. Yeah, I think it's super dope that he received that.
Absolutely. Couldn't happen to a better person, to be honest.
Shout out to Gary High Power, no doubt.
Even though we're starting with that positive note, right?
Yes.
So now it's been 15 years since the Malice at the Palace.
Ooh.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Oh, man. For you guys don't remember, it is when Ron Artest went up into the stands as an Indiana
Meta World
Pacer.
Peace.
Meta World Peace. This is when he was Ron Artest.
Back Ron Artest, right.
And then went up into the stands, started fighting. An entire stadium just erupted into a giant brawl. But in lieu of that, if you guys don't remember, we have our own little situation that happened in the NFL recently. And if you guys remember, it's Myles Garrett. He was accused, and rightfully so, of hitting Mason Rudolph, the quarterback from the Pittsburgh Steelers, with the helmet had taken off. I just want to know, Carmel, did you see that? And I wonder what your take is on that.
I saw it live. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? Like, 'cause I've seen guys get their helmets taken off before. Usually gets just thrown, tossed to the side, flags get thrown. I have never seen a guy take the helmet off of another player and then begin to brandish it as a weapon and then connect.
Right.
So the Malice at the Palace, that feeling when you seen it was like, whoa, it was surreal that this dude hit another guy with the helmet. Now, fortunately, he didn't connect with the crown of the helmet, because then it just would have been blood all over the place. But the fact that he hit a dude with the helmet he took off of him, I'm like, first of all, he's done. Like, his season is over.
Right.
Because that's in some way that's, attack with a deadly weapon. But, like, the fact that guy hit the dude with the helmet, I'm like, yeah, and, like, whether or not there's also a lot of, like, back and forth whether or not Mason Rudolph tried to do the same thing to him. Because he did, if you watch the video, he tried to take his helmet off as well. 6'2", 6'3" quarterback, versus a 6'6", 280 D lineman. He's going to be better at doing that. So, he proved it. So it's like, but yeah, that whole brawl was just unreal.
I hate the fact that, like, Mason Rudolph is being viewed as pretty much an innocent bystander, and the narrative that's pointing out, because it's like, well, Myles Garrett was, he tackled him a little later, whatever. But if you look at the play, and if you look at it, he is not only is he engaged into the tackle as Mason Rudolph, the ball's leaving Mason Rudolph's hand, but he's just finishing the play. And as a defensive player playing in the NFL, you play to the whistle. And if the man you're tackling potentially could still have the ball, you're going to continue to try to tackle him until the whistle is blown. That's how you're taught. Right. And keep in mind, especially as a DN, these guys are paid to make sacks. They get bonuses on the sacks. So who are you to tell this guy to just let him go? You can't, right? And then by the time you got him down, right, then you see Mason Rudolph kind of losing his cool, trying to rip off his helmet.
Yeah.
And
he punched him in the balls too.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
Yes.
Oh my God. See? And this is what I hate about that, right? Is that, like, instead of picking out, like, who's right and who's wrong, why can't we just accept that both parties were wrong?
Because one guy was better at being wrong than the other. And which is like it sucks, because Myles Garrett is the bigger, stronger guy. And, like, if they were equal size, the fight would have been different, and they both probably would have been, deemed or given similar penalties. But because Myles Garrett is much bigger than Mason Rudolph and was able to, exact the revenge out on him that Mason was trying to do on him, he's the more guilty party. But I that's what I don't like. It's like the intent is not considered because Mason couldn't complete the job. He couldn't do what he wanted to do. He couldn't get the guy's helmet off. Right. And Myles Garrett did. But the thing about Myles Garrett also, he has a track record. And here's the other problem. He had a similar issue, I think, a year ago where he was kind of did something kind of dirty. He was kind of teetering on becoming like the next Ndamukong Suh. And then he goes and does this.
Well, all right, so I looked into this because I had one of my friends kind of talk to me about this, right? They said, well, Myles Garrett is kind of looking dirty and whatever. And kinda. I mean, we'll point of discussion if I agree with you all the time on here. So this is where I'm going to slightly disagree. So he was initially touted as punching another player. But if you look at it, it's an entanglement with Tennessee Titan tight end Delanie Walker.
I remember that.
And the thing is, if you look at it, like the whistle's being blown and Delanie Walker's not letting go of his block. So naturally, if you know the play's over, like, why would I let you continue pushing me? Naturally, and it's an open hand. It's not like he shoved him or punched him. It's not like he took off Delanie Walker's helmet and hit him in the head. Right. It was an open hit in the head. Yeah. Right. And the other one where he was accused of tackling a quarterback way too aggressively, up until 2 or 3 years ago, that's how you tackled people in the NFL. Yeah. And so now you got Myles Garrett, is I think 23 or 24. He's played football in almost his entire life, being taught to tackle one way. And now you're telling him to change something. And the inherent nature of unnecessary roughness or being way too aggressive in football, that dynamic's changed aggressively.
Yeah, which is really, having played football like, half my life and being a huge fan of the sport, like, hitting a guy a certain way was like other than scoring a touchdown, was getting a big hit.
Right.
So it was like, that's what you wanted. Like, hit the guy as hard as you can and, plant him in the ground and do it again. That was it. And you look forward to that. Right. And so it's like weird now that the whole game is like kind of moderated on this whole like protect the quarterback issue. Mainly because what happened to Tom Brady back, I think it was 2006 when he, blew his knee out because the guy tackled him, below the knee. I think Carson Palmer also had the same thing happen to him. So they're trying to protect the quarterback, and I get that, but at the same time, like, there's guys who are injuring themselves because they're trying to tackle unnaturally. Because like you're, working out 6, 7, 8 months out of the year to get your 40 time down. Get your body fat down. You're trying to weigh 220, 235. You're trying to build this machine to go and like seek and destroy. And then they're telling you, when you get to the part where you're supposed to destroy, don't destroy as much. Like that, you can't work out like that. It doesn't make any sense. So like to train people or to teach people like to like not hit as hard as you can, but train as hard as you can. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't like where football is going with that. Like you're setting up guys who are going to get injured other ways. And what the problem is like it's 60% of the team itself for this 1% that's the quarterback. DBs, linebackers, D tackles, they're all even like some of the offensive players aren't as protected as the quarterback. So it's a weird dynamic, and a lot of people want to make it also a racial issue. Because 80% of the league's quarterbacks are white. And even this Mason Rudolph, Myles Garrett thing is a big black dude versus a smaller white dude. So it's like we don't always have to make everything about race, but it just becomes so glaring because of what the people's races are. So it's like it's just kind of like it's a factor that we have to deal with, but it's not the issue. Yeah,
I hate the fact that those like media portrays any type of narrative in that manner, like black football player hits white quarterback, or whatever, and that's just a problem and an issue in itself. And we discussed we don't really want to go too far into those type of things, but that is things. The one thing I do want to reflect back on, football is in nature a aggressive physical sport.
Yeah, 100%.
It does. And I feel like although, the NFL does have a responsibility of educating the players as to know what the harms and everything you're going to put through your body by hitting somebody with your head. You should inherently know as a person that's going to pursue the NFL that if I do this, if I hit my head against somebody who's running right at me, that's bigger than me, faster than me, that there's going to be repercussion to that type of action.
Right.
And I hate the fact that like people are like, well, look, you got to feel sorry for these NFL players. Like, look, I didn't pursue the NFL. Now, mind you, obviously, what the hell am I going to do in my physical frame? But there's also, but if I know as a human being that if I'm going to pursue an exceptional job with an exceptional paycheck, that there's going to be risks involved.
There's going to be risks.
How do we, how I don't understand how people don't understand that. And that's not that I don't feel bad for these guys, but a lot of these guys have to go through college for at least 2 or 3 years. And a lot of them that get to the NFL are from legitimate universities.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you have this opportunity to still educate yourself, to get yourself in further something else, where the NFL doesn't have to be your only option. You have other options to go.
Yeah. Cause like, so I just want to know, where do people differentiate between like the student athlete in football versus just the athlete like in tennis? Like when a girl goes pro in tennis or a young man goes pro in tennis, there's no talk of, oh, he's got to finish school. You know, he can't go pro at 12 or 15. Like, there's no problem. They almost look at that as like, oh, wow, he went pro at 11 in tennis or golf, whatever. But in football and basketball, there's always this thing, oh, well, he's not going to finish school. Oh, he's got to get his degree first. No one talks about that in a lot of other sports. It's just basketball. Even in baseball, if a prospect's hot, 16, 17, bring him on up. Yeah, let's get him in the league. But football and basketball, there's always this like narrative that the kid's got to get his degree first.
So now I do understand where you're coming from on this. Now, I think, though, that actually has to do more with how the physical body is built and how much your physical status actually matters in those respective sports. Like, you know, size and everything. Football, very much apparent. I don't need to explain anything else. Yeah. And baseball, I mean, look at Jose Altuve or whatever the guy is from the Houston Astros. He's a 5'5", 170-pound person hitting home runs.
Sure.
In tennis, your physical status of what, because you're not running into people and physically dealing with people. In basketball, you have to box people out. You have to out rebound somebody. You have to practically jump over certain people and certain dynamics. You're not going to have an entire line. In basketball in the NBA, it's completely impossible to have a bunch of JJ Barreras, you know, 5 of them. If you guys don't know, JJ Barreras is like this 5'5"
like
guy.
6 people know who JJ Barreras is.
Yeah, right. So he's like this 5'5" nobodies. You can't have like 5 point guards. You have to have your different dynamics and size in order for you to have an effective game in the NBA. But in baseball, you can have a 9-man roster of 5'5" people, and if they're talented enough, it's okay. Where the physical stature does not matter.
Sure.
You know.
So I hear that, and I understand that from the actual physical nature and logistics. When people bring up the conversation, I never heard it brought up thin. Like I never heard someone say, oh, he's got to stay and get his degree and work out to get bigger. Like it's always about the degree. And like and also any other industry, like if someone is a computer engineer and they create some crazy software or program and like Microsoft hits them up as a freshman and wants to bring him in, I don't hear people say, oh, he's got to stay and get his degree. No, you're going to Microsoft. You're going to Google. Like, and there's a lot of guys in those industries who didn't finish their degree but created some stupid, crazy program and, like, they're making billions, whatever. So it's funny because, like, I get the physical nature and the necessity to be bigger. But, like, LeBron in high school could have been playing the NBA his sophomore year. Like, he was just that physically dominant. Same Shaq, you know. Maybe not Iverson or even Kobe, you know, whatever. But, like, there's some guys who were just humongous dudes.
Dwight Howard,
right, in their sophomore. Remember Tyson Chandler back in the day was rumored to be the first kid to leave high school early because he was just that much bigger than high school kids. But then all things came up with him. Yeah, you got to go to school. And I'm okay with going to school and all that. But, like, why? Like, if your job is to shoot a basketball, that's what you're going for. You go when you can. Like, go as soon as you can. Because there's no guarantee that it'll be there when you're 27. School will always be there. And a lot of these schools will take a guy afterwards just because of notoriety and still give him a free ride because such and such is going to our school, whatever, you know, or extend that scholarship longer, even though they're not playing for that school, just because that person's going to their school, whatever. So I'm like, I just don't understand why there's so many people and there's such a common thread that the kid has to finish school in those two sports. I'm saying because if it's a physical thing, I get it, but I just never hear it brought up.
You know, but that could also be on the narrative. That might be one of those backdoor narrative things that's created by the NCAA. Because if you look at the two college sports that make more money than any other college sport, is without question basketball, NCAA football and basketball.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that might have a lot to do with it because, like, there's the 1-and-out rule that happens in the NCAA. Like, good luck watching a senior that's thriving to be a top 5 pick. Like, no, if he's going to be a top 5 pick, he's getting out in the first year after.
Yeah.
Right. And then that also goes with football. Like, you got these kids. I mean, football, like we both agreed, you have to be physically developed a lot earlier than anything else.
Sure.
And that takes maturation of your body naturally in order for you to get there.
Yeah.
So
I remember who was the guy, the running back that came out of Ohio State who was trying to challenge that rule? Maurice Claret. What's funny about him is he never struck me as a really physically opposing player. He was dominant in college because he played at Ohio State. It wasn't like he was at some podunk school destroying people. And then I remember it was a receiver out of USC.
Mike Williams.
He was a bigger guy, bigger receiver.
But I think those guys, I don't mean to interrupt, my bad, but I think those guys declared early, though, because of academic issues.
Okay, so to my point again.
Oh, right.
They don't want to go to school. Like, they don't need to. Like, okay, if I'm training to be a engineer, right, and that's my focus, like, do I really need to take a cooking class? You know what I'm saying? Like, let me just focus, because, like, these dudes are training their bodies and their minds. Don't mistake, like, football and basketball, there's a lot of mental work going on. A lot of these guys are super smart guys. In football and into sport, and the hand-eye coordination, also memorizing plays that are like 15, 20 words long with 6, 7 different options in that one play. It's not like just like I'm getting out there and throw the ball around. You know, it's not like flag football. There's a lot to be learned in that sport. So it's funny, like, they're training so hard for that thing and then going to school. It's like some kids just go to school and struggle, like trying to get that political science degree or whatever. This kid is doing that as well as, like, it's almost a double major. They're majoring in football and majoring in architecture, or majoring in business, whatever. So it's like, it's funny because people look at athletes as being these dumb jocks. Like, they're doing twice the work, and physically. Like, I'm learning the playbook, and I'm working my butt off, and then I'm going to class. Like, they should struggle. Like, it's not a surprise that the guy's having academic issues. His 24 hours, 20 of it is school and working out. Like, they always often show, like, was it the Naval Academy or Air Force Academies football players? They show their schedules. A lot of games you watch, like the Army Navy game, end of the year, they'll show, like, this cadet's daily schedule. Like 5 o'clock, they're waking up. It's like they're at the meal table eating, and then it's like first class, second class, third class, working out. Then it was like next class. Then it was like, hit the gym. Then it was like practice. Then it had some other class and some kind of like cadet thing. And then like they're going to bed at 12 to wake up again at 5. That's just nuts.
But maybe it's not just an issue of like, hey, maybe all they're pursuing is sports, so maybe they shouldn't, be focusing on that, or should be focusing on other things. But maybe for some people, it's more of like developing their character and their people and like how they're being, because like you put an 18-year-old in the pros and you put them with all that type of money and fame, like they have like zero. I mean, mind you, ultimately speaking, from a legal standpoint, at 18, you're fully responsible for yourself from a legal standpoint. But I could definitely tell you, Alan Kay at 18 didn't know a goddamn thing about himself and how to do anything. So now you put me in the league. Again, this is theoretical. Before you guys like, there's no way in hell, because I have already accepted I'm not JJ Barrera. All right, I'm as close physically to him as possible. But you put me in a standpoint where you put me in millions of dollars, zero development as any type of growing up, right? And 18, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell am I doing? And so I think there's a lot of merit to be said that some of these kids need to just stay in just for a little bit to develop that side. Because I do agree. If all I'm doing there is going to get to the league, that's fine. But if I go straight to the league, there's literally no development in my character as an adult. And I think those years in the NCAA in college are actually very beneficial for them.
So that's where I come back to the argument again.
Okay.
If you're 15 and you join the WTA.
Okay.
So what structure is that kid? Like, what, what I'm saying? Because like,
agree.
Who's Sloane Stevens and the new chick, not Sloane Stevens, she's in there too. There's another girl that just killed it this past tennis season, who's I think 15, 16 years old, right? No one's really talking about like, she needs to stay in and grow up and, learn. Because again, maybe it's because in tennis, there's like just this thought that these kids have a better environment around them where someone's talking to them about managing money, or that there's a better, I guess, league mandated structure for them and how their money is managed. I don't know. I don't know how WTA works, or even the golfing association. But like, there's a lot of these kids who turn pro early in both those leagues. Even race car drivers. Like a lot of race car driving start as young kids, in like in the pro-am circuits in like 7, 8. Do you remember Frankie Muniz, Malcolm in the Middle?
Yes.
So he after like his time as an actor, he tried to become a F1 racer.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that I was way behind, even as a 19-year-old, because some of these kids have been driving since they were 5.
Mm-hmm.
But in Italy and in Spain and in France, like once you show any kind of like ability to be a driver, you know, and these prodigious kids that have the ability to do that, you're moved straight into the academy where you learn to drive and go to school. Like early on, you know, or even in soccer, some of these kids in soccer, when you show you can kick a ball and dribble around everyone, 6, 7 years old, you go to an academy that teaches you how to play soccer to an elite level and go to school. Like the schooling is like secondary because like they understand like this is what the world wants to see is this prodigious talent kicking a ball. Not math.
They do that with basketball and baseball though.
But it's kids. Also schooling is first though.
Right.
You say student athlete.
Right. But I mean, but
you know what I'm saying? The student part is the more important part, and then you can play football.
I think the basis of education and the importance of it is taught a lot differently internationally. So international athletes are treated a little bit different than American ones are. And I think that's another discussion to have in its entirety. But I think that's kind of where that fundamentally bases off of. And I think that's how you can develop. I mean,
I know like right off the bat in Europe, like having a trade is considered more important than having a degree. And that's common. And like I've mentioned this to other people. There's a great documentary called Where Do We Invade Next by Michael Moore, where he goes into Europe and talks about, you know, how a lot of the countries out there are getting a degree. It's like, okay. It's like, no, and a lot of them offer free education. A lot of countries in Europe have free university. A lot of because they're not going to universities. Like, and what's funny is when you think about it, we look to European countries for like their cars, their suits, their watches, because someone is just solely making shoes. They're just working on that watch. That's all they do. We don't really have that in America. People get, you know, they get degrees in liberal arts. Where this guy spent 30 years making this one type of watch, and we want that Italian watch or that German watch because that's all the guy does. Like, well, that's a trade. Like that's why it's so important to have a trade. And they out in Europe can survive off that. Like this guy makes crazy seats or bottles or whatever. The person in that town that makes that's how they survive because they're so good at that. Everyone comes to them for that thing. We don't really do that here in America. So having a trade is not like, it's not looked at as important as getting a degree. And then conversely, we have crazy like student debt right now,
right?
Which is just nuts. Like I mean, I don't want to say it like it's some kind of conspiracy, but it's like you put so much effort and emphasis on getting this degree, and then people are spending so much goddamn money on it, and then like people are still looking for jobs.
Man, yeah. Well, to I'm gonna say, you know, something. Hopefully not too much because we don't kill a future podcast. Because I know we do want to talk about education and education system for how it's constructed. But I mean, in my opinion, what used to happen is that like why college degrees became such an important entity because like when my parents were growing up, they were taught trades. They were taught go into the workforce and learn and do everything. And so what was the scarcity was nobody had degrees. So now all of a sudden, like now degrees became the thing. Now that's the one thing that's like, oh my God, this guy has a degree. So therefore he's, you know, innately smart. He's accepted to be a, you know, an educated person of that field, but has zero experience. But then that goes from there. So now you're getting in this point where everybody has a degree because it was taught to them that they needed a degree in order to do something. And now you have less and less people that are experienced. Right. And that's why you got, you know, jobs these days in America, at least. That hey, you need a bachelor's degree and 5 years of experience or 6 years of experience just to get to an entry level job is because, yeah, you have a degree, sure. Right. But you have nothing else to show for it. Like, right. And it kind of goes from there.
Yeah. So that's funny because, like, some of our, like, more bigger, you know, larger than life, you know, icons in our industries right now don't have degrees.
Right.
Like, there's guys out there, I know, like, Elon Musk talks a lot about, like, you need to go to school. Like, why? What's the point? You know, I know Mark Zuckerberg ever went back to Harvard. You know, it's like, so it's like, it's not impossible. And then I know those are some of the biggest names out there, but a lot of people have, you know, thriving businesses that don't have degrees. And I think just getting the degree now is people are like you said, been so focused on that's become the thing. Now companies are like, well, shoot, yeah, we hired this guy. He had no actual tangential experience to do the job, but he's he can read a book,
Right.
he can write a paper on it, but like actually pulling the lever and doing things, it's not the same. So it's like, so going back to like the sports thing, like I get that it's important for these guys to have things they say to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like the NFL, NBA, NCAA are in a way benefiting on these guys, just focusing on that thing, but they're not. Mm-hmm. So I know it's cool now. They just talked about how I think California has now created the first atmosphere where these NCAA athletes can earn money based on their likeness.
Yes.
So that's cool.
That's awesome.
The NCAA hasn't agreed to it yet, which is going
to be another debacle in
right.
itself.
It's like, it's crazy. Like, wait, each state's probably going to start like, approving this law. And
mm-hmm.
like the NCAA is like, whoa, we don't. It's like, well, every state does. Like, what are you going to do? Like, like you can't kick every state out of your association. So it's going to weird. It's always been weird to me how the NCAA is its own separate entity outside of these states, but like your colleges are in these states. So how's that going to work? It's going to be crazy.
Right. So speaking of the whole, trying to find like a post sports career or anything like that, it seems right now that Colin Kaepernick has became more of a civil rights activist or a social rights activist. Mm-hmm. Then he has an actual NFL player. As recently he had this workout, mm-hmm. and you guys don't know, the NFL scheduled this workout out of nowhere. Scheduled on a Saturday. He decided, hey, he didn't agree with it. Had this workout an hour away from the actual site that was originally planned. Mm-hmm. Carmel, I just want to know what you think about all of that.
I think Kaepernick's a smart guy, very smart guy, and I think what's cool about what he's doing is he's not only like writing his own story, but he's also telling the NFL story, and that's what they don't like about what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Like the whole, let's have a workout for him on a Saturday. If a lot of people don't know this, but if you've been in the sport, and like I've been close, I've had brothers and people who actually played NFL football, and like they have workouts every Tuesday, mm-hmm. every week. There's guys, they bring guys in every Tuesday to work out. Colin could have been brought in at any time to work out for a team. So to have a like Saturday workout, which I think most the general public knows, NFL plays on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Saturday is the worst day to have a workout.
Let alone in week 7, or
right.
week 10, or
week
whatever,
10,
11.
Middle of the season. On a Saturday where everyone's traveling to get to their game on Sunday, mm-hmm. let's throw this random workout for Colin. And let's call it for Colin. Like it's very blatant that it's a PR stunt. So Colin calls her bluff. It's like, okay, cool. Everyone's flying out to Atlanta anyway. I'm just going to have it down the street. So if you really want to see me work out, come watch me work out. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to film it and control the video that goes out, because a lot of people are saying if the NFL did it, they could easily say, he's got diminished skills, he mm-hmm. doesn't look as good as he used to, yada yada yada. Scouts could say this and that. No, if you saw any of the video, the dude was dropping bombs. Mm-hmm. I mean, pinpoint passes, looked in incredible shape. Mm-hmm. He was good. He's ready to go. So it's like he's creating his own. He's writing his own narrative, and the NFL's not liking it.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because I do agree with everything you're saying, but I think it's a PR stunt on both ends.
Sure.
So right now, the leverage that Colin Kaepernick has to his name and as his activist label has now is to be the guy that's being blackballed by the NFL. Mm-hmm. The man who wants to play in the NFL so bad, but he can't because of his, taking a knee. Mm-hmm. Right. We'll get into that here in a little bit now. Mm-hmm. Now, with that being said, now let's say Colin Kaepernick does finally make it to the NFL. Okay. So from right now, he's going to be a backup quarterback, mm-hmm. which is, in my opinion, significantly less of a salary than he is making from Nike right now, from just being the Colin Kaepernick that he is. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. now the leverage that Colin Kaepernick has, let's say he throws an interception. Let's say he doesn't play, because he's 31, 32 now. He's been out of the league for 3 years. Mm-hmm. He does anything like on this. The only thing he can ever do to carry his name into what he is to take a team to the Super Bowl and win, or actually have a really productive season. Right. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that when you're away from a professional sport like the NFL for that long, there's no way you're going to be back in that
Yeah.
state. So the only way for Colin Kaepernick to maintain leverage is to be of that, right? And there's another thing too. If you really wanted to be in the NFL, if you really wanted to be in this game that you say you love and you would die for, then you need to sometimes bite the bullet and do what the other work does. Like,
I agree.
Like in general. And the thing is too, like, let's say I'm an NFL owner, right? And that's the thing. So it was 25 teams showed up to what the initial workout was. Only 8 showed up. I bet you those 17, like, look at, there's nothing, nobody doubts Colin Kaepernick's physical skills. Nobody doubts him, what he's accomplished, what his ability is. Because like you said, he still is in great physical shape and everything. But what people are on the cusp of and what owners are like, I don't know if I'm going to hire this guy, is if he can actually conform to status quo of being a teammate. Right. And now if I'm employing a player, right, I don't mind him being a social rights activist. What I do care about is if I'm employing a player who constantly just is constantly making comments, constantly doing this, constantly, it's just a media stunt and takes away from the attention on the team actually being a team.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I will tell you right now, I am not I never really agreed with him taking a knee because the national anthem meant something different for me. But I supported him, protesting what he did.
Yeah.
And things like that. I love the way he did it, especially like at the time. I remember at the time, like the things in Baltimore. I mean, if you think about that, was going crazy. The way that the Antifa or whatever it is, the way that they just stopped traffic in the middle of anything like that.
Yeah.
The fact that all he did was take a knee, right? And not only did he like take a knee, that knee came from an Army veteran telling him, "Hey, maybe you should take this approach. I also don't agree with you, but this and this." But to go back to my original point of saying this, like now Colin Kaepernick, as his name and as his market name, is just a social rights activist. And the only way he can maintain that narrative is to still look like NFL teams don't want him, still be in shape to perceivably say that, hey, I can still play in the league, but also still tell the league, hey, this is this. Because he made that giant statement. Any 32 teams, you know where I'm at, Roger Goodell, this, and that. And tell me, let me know in what job corporation that you can actually work for something and actively call out the CEO.
Right.
There.
See, what's funny about that, I have here's the thing for me. I appreciate what Colin's done. I appreciate the standing. And I think about Colin is he's 100% true to what he's talking about. A lot of people who don't like what he's done, he's just trying to get, the glory. He's just trying to, he's a media hog, trying to get attention. Colin's always been an activist. Colin he's got several charities he's worked with. He's got a charity for kids with heart defects that he's had since he was in Frisco. Before this went down, he's donated backpacks to several schools in the city.
Millions
before this happened.
Right.
Before this happened. So people who come out, he's just trying to get media attention. You don't know the story. So to that point, I like what he's doing in the fact that he's just not backing down. The other part of it is if he really wanted to play, like if his ploy is to keep getting attention to bring awareness to
his cause
and what the NFL is doing and all that, he's doing it the right way. Because if he really wanted to play, and I've said this since like probably the first year he didn't play, he could play in Canada. There's a whole league right above us that the guys up there make 10 to 20% of what the NFL makes, but it's still a good living. You're playing football. The best players in Canada make about $1 million to $2 million a year. If Colin Kaepernick went to Canada and played, and that league up there is designed for him, it's designed for the type of quarterback he is. Let's say he goes in there and he balls out. He takes over that whole country. I mean, the CFL would become a huge market because Kaepernick showed up. Let's say he went to Toronto. So he's there with Drake. So Drake and Kaepernick. And don't let him win. If he wins the Grey Cup up there as the guy who the NFL didn't want, and he becomes the CFL's face. He becomes the face of a whole nother league. Then he's playing ball. He's playing professional ball. You know he's in shape now because you see him actually playing. He doesn't need a workout.
Right.
Now teams look even stupider. If he's up there throwing 2,000-3,000 yards and killing on the field, and you're still not going to bring him in, he makes him look even worse. So from that aspect, I don't know why he didn't take that route.
Well, again, I think I want to harp on what you're saying right now. Like, let's say, I think there are bigger things in life that are just about sports or something like that. And maybe in pursuit of him, wanting to pursue his passion of playing football, he found a different passion in improving humanity and how he sees just. You know, and what the biggest thing that's ever bothered me about this entire thing is that instead of like, hey, this guy's taking a knee for the national anthem, instead of like, hey, maybe this high profile athlete, it wants to bring, you know, awareness to a subject that a lot of people feel strongly about. Instead of just being like, hey, why is he doing that? They instead interpreted the knee in their own interpretation. Like, he's disrespecting the military. He's disrespecting this, and this. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you this right now. As an active, you know, at the time, an active duty Navy, you know, thing, I not only was not offended, but I, like I was saying earlier, appreciated the fact that he took that. And let me tell you, there's this thing on every base where they lower the flag. That's not called reveille, but it's the honors. It's called the colors. And at sunset, they take the colors down, right? And in the process of that, the you know, national anthem is being played, or I forgot which one is being played, and you're supposed to sit there and salute or stand attention. Half the people that were screaming at him like, why are you taking a knee for the national anthem, were also running to get undercover so they didn't have to salute the flag. A 45-second ceremony. You're gonna take your entire life out and get mad at a guy for taking a knee. And in all reality, taking a knee is not even a disrespectful gesture. Like, you propose, you take a knee. When coaches are talking in front of the team, everybody takes a knee. Like, it's a submissive behavior that is of respect and of endearment. And the fact is, and this is what I hate, is that instead of just taking the fact that, hey, again, like I was saying, he wants to bring awareness to this topic, you're going to take the other narrative and interpret his knee. It's like, is it because, like, do you really feel like that's an actual issue and you're feeding into it and you don't want to address it? Or is it just about your own selfish nature and you don't want to divulge into topics? And again, it's like, I want to point out everything that's wrong with it, but maybe let's point out what's right and take a different measure in its entirety.
Here's the thing is, I would say 80% of people, maybe more so, forget why he took a knee. It has nothing to do with NFL.
Nothing
to do with the military, the national anthem. He was not boycotting one thing or protesting one thing that's actually happening during when he's taking a knee. It's not football. It's not the flag. It's not the song. Nothing. And people all forget about that because the whole narrative was hijacked. It's police brutality. It's social and criminal injustice, and people forget about that. So it's funny when you bring that back to people's awareness, like, you know, he's doing this because of Mike Brown. Now what? Like, you're really going to be mad at him for doing that? Now, I will say this. I understand how the NFL could be upset with what he's doing, because he's doing it during the national anthem and the whole military. It's honoring the military during that time. And for a large part of the time, the military wasn't a part of the national anthem. And guys wasn't even out during the national anthem. Guys were in the locker room. And the U.S. military paid the NFL to promote the military and the whole time. So I told someone like this. It'd be like, let's say Walmart brings in a new steak into their inventory. And you are a loyal vegan. And right before your shift, you stand in front of Walmart wearing your Walmart uniform and saying, don't eat this new steak we have here. And then you go start your shift. When you start your shift, you don't talk about it. But before your shift, you're out there passing out flyers. You tell people don't eat the steak because maybe it's not grass-fed, or maybe the cows are inhumanely treated. But this is Walmart's new partner. They're paying big money for this. And you're going to talk bad about it before your shift. You're like, I'm off the clock. I'm off the clock. I'm not working it, but I'm wearing the uniform. I got my smock on, right? And then you walk in and then you clock in. So let's say when your review comes up, we decide, hey, you know what? We've enjoyed having you here, but you know, we're going to terminate your appointment with us, and we wish you well. Because people forget, Kaepernick was never suspended. He played that whole season. When his contract was up, they just didn't renew it. So he was never really, like, people say blackballed. I get that, yeah, he wasn't given another chance after that. But why would they? You're talking bad about a partner of the NFL. That's not cool.
Right.
Like, and you're right. If you really want to work here, you got to toe the line. Like, you can't be talking trash about like, he couldn't have come. Like, you can't go into Walmart wearing red. Right? That's the competition's color. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can wear an all red suit, but then put the blue vest on. Like, that's just that's not working for us. So, like, Kaepernick's a super smart guy. I'll say that again. He knows what he's doing. And if his goal was to bring awareness to, like I said, social injustice and even the two-phase duality that is the NFL, okay, he's done it. But now we're at a point, it's like, well, now what's the next step? I hate guys who kneel now. Or any guy who's kneeling after Kaepernick, it was just stupid. Like, it's done. Like, you're really not helping anything now.
Well, now it's like, hey, now that the awareness has been brought, now let's do something about it.
Let's do something about it.
Right? It's like those stupid, like Facebook, like, hey, like for prayer, like for this, comment for this. But what is that really accomplishing anything? It doesn't do anything.
Nothing. I hate thoughts and prayer posts.
Like, again, I hate that people, unlike Kaepernick, a lot of people speak out like, oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. But how about you point out, instead of pointing out what's wrong, point out what's right. Point out what can actually be resolved, and then take it from there. Right. Go from that.
Like, I've seen a lot of people post, and it's some real racist rhetoric stuff, and it gets me angry because people, are not looking at the case. Like, if you really just took and said, okay, cool, you don't like what he's doing, like what he's talking about, he's disrespecting the flag, get it. But let's talk about why black men being killed by cops.
Right. Well, systematic racism and oppression.
Right. Let's talk about that.
Right. I think that's a bigger issue.
It's a way bigger issue.
Right. And that's the thing. That is what I was so pissed off. I don't want to say people, but my God, there was a lot of people, family included for me, that were just all like, they're disrespecting military. Mind you, like, again, they never asked me if I was offended.
Right.
And they never did that. I was like, again, why would you take all that effort into interpret a knee when for human civilization, you could do more by taking half of that effort into what he's looking at. Right. And that's the thing is we lack compassion. We lack empathy. We lack the fact that, like, just because we don't see it ourselves, it doesn't exist. Right. And that is what upset me more than anything else, is that you got a man, not only is he a high profile athlete, but there are so many people of color and not of color saying the same thing. Like, this is a problem. Awareness needs to be brought to it, but instead you want to put that effort onto something else of your own narrative because you don't want to actually look at the real issue at hand. Right. And I really didn't like that.
So it's funny because back in 2012, 2010, somewhere around that time, we had Tebow.
Oh, the Tebow.
Right. And he was taking a knee during the national anthem, took a knee every time he scored, taking a knee on the sideline. Tebowing, T-bowing, that was a thing for a long time, 2-3 years. Not one thing about it being disrespectful. Ever. Now, Tebow was also the most All-American boy ever. I mean, just accolades upon accolades at Florida. So, like, is it, I hate to make it a race thing, but, like, I think around the same time, a Muslim guy, I think he played for the Chiefs, kneeled prostrate like Muslims do after scoring a touchdown. He was fined.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I'm like, how are we actually okay with that? But then again, football's very American. It's very Christian. It's very and again, the default in anything in America is white. So whether we want to make a race or not about race, the default is white. So when a black Muslim guy kneels on both knees and is praising Allah after he scores a touchdown, like, okay, it's gonna ruffle a few feathers. But then to literally find the guy, it's just asinine. Like,
I think the most American and most Christian thing that one can do is actually show empathy, show tolerance.
Oh, well, sure.
And show accept everything of the difference of views.
Well, actually be a Christian. Yeah, right. Sure.
So I just want to know, I guess with that, do you believe that athletes should use their platform as a means to speak about things?
100%.
100%.
It's entertainment. It's entertainment. At the end of the day, sports is entertainment. So anyone will say, oh, like the whole shut up and dribble with LeBron or whatever. I mean, Muhammad Ali is considered arguably one of the greatest athletes ever, and usually the best boxer ever. But really, it's more because of his social stance. Because as a boxer, if you look at his actual stats as a boxer and his win-loss record and people he fought, it's honestly not the greatest ever. But his stance and the fact that, like, he was taking the same kind of stance as Kaepernick is taking. And to your credit, what you said earlier, if Kaepernick came in and wasn't as successful, it kind of ruins his whole witness. You know, Muhammad Ali did that. and was dominant. So it's like, okay, so that's like, that's the marker that all guys have to shoot for. And that's, I think, why Muhammad is considered the greatest, because he took the social stance. He took the stance to the media, the public. He was a draft dodger, didn't fight, and then still went out and won titles and still beat Joe Frazier's and Sonny Listens and guys like that. So I think that's why it's different for even a LeBron, because LeBron's taking a lot of stances.
He's taking a lot.
He's very open, very vocal, but he's dominant. He wins. So it's like you can't be like, if Karl Malone was taking social stances back in the day, Karl, you ain't won nothing. Charles Barkley couldn't take any stance. Like, you got to win something, bro.
Charles Barkley will take a stance against Twinkies. That's
right,
the only
exactly.
stance he could ever do.
If Charles Barkley ever stands, it's a good thing.
Oh my God. If there's anything physical.
So like, yeah. So you kind of have to win. I think, yeah. If you have any kind of marketable success in sports, I don't say it's not your responsibility or your duty to, but I think guys should. If you feel that way, definitely should.
I think it's like one of two things. I do think, first of all, I think like the whole like Muhammad Ali. Now during the time that he was, took that stance, didn't go into the draft and everything, he was just kind of like how they're kind of doing with Kaepernick right now. Mm-hmm. There's people on the fence of both. Mm-hmm. Why aren't you serving your country? Why aren't you do this, this, and this? But also you're not fighting because you don't believe in it. Great. Right. Awesome. Amazing. Mm-hmm. Right. And I feel like I think the same thing's going to happen with Kaepernick now. It's like a few years from now, we're going to be like, hey, or not a few years, but decades later, like, oh my God, he actually took a stance. He sacrificed millions of dollars to take a social stance that he did. And oh my God, it's amazing. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, also with that, we're talking about, I think people should ultimately understand that just because somebody has a following, somebody's popular, somebody speaks out, doesn't mean they are the expert of that respective field.
No, certainly not.
And so just because I hate the fact that people use, the worst type of things like followers and think that's credibility. Just because they make millions of dollars doesn't mean you're smart.
Yeah.
So it's also like, it's just like, for example, like I remember like when 9/11 happened, they're like, well, let's tune into Ja Rule to see what he's got to say about that, right? And I think I took that from a comic stand, but like it's true. It's like, what the hell does Ja Rule got to say about 9/11? Why does it make it so credible? And the same thing with athletes. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, I think I think if they do feel strongly, they should take a stance on a lot of things.
Yeah,
that should be about it.
That's it. But I mean, and hopefully they're educated on it and up to date on what's happening. I know LeBron was hit up about this whole the protests in Hong Kong. And how the general manager of the Rockets tweeted something against.
I think it was the owner.
It was the owner. Yeah.
Yes.
Is it Daryl Morey? I think it was.
Daryl Morey.
Yeah,
that's correct.
So it's like LeBron's like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't say that, but I'm not totally educated on the thing. And he said some kind of stuff that was kind of incendiary to some people. Like he took a stand that was kind of like, that's not my thing. But he's always vocal about everything else.
Right.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't live in Hong Kong. He's not Chinese. So I mean, it's okay, like, why does he have to say something about that? But then that's the problem is if you start talking about your own social issues, people expect you to talk about all of them. Like, well, no, like he doesn't know about all that.
And I think LeBron James is one of the I love LeBron James, guys, by the way. I love LeBron. He's one of my favorite players of all time, right behind Allen Iverson. But yeah, that's the one thing. He does pick and choose what things he wants to stand up against. And he is one of those, the active, like, not only is he, in my opinion, the best player ever of all time. We could debate about that another day.
Yeah.
Careful. I know. Oh, man, I don't want to open another podcast upon this podcast. But he does take an active role in trying to better society.
Yeah.
Than anything else. And not only does he make those comments, like we're saying, not only does he make these stands, but he actively goes and pursues a difference and makes a difference in those communities.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So then that kind of goes back to your question about should athletes use their platform. Because then if we bring up the other, potential GOAT in basketball, Michael never took any social stances.
Never did.
And one of his most famous quotes is, Republicans buy shoes too. Because he's like, I don't care. Like, whatever. I'm just trying to make money and, and feed my family and build my own empire. And I was okay with that because it's true. It's 100% true. Like, both Democrats and Republicans are going to buy Jordans. So why would I offend either one of them? And, and cut my share. Like, nah, I want them both to buy my shoes. So not everyone's got to be LeBron. Everyone's not going to be a Muhammad Ali. You don't have to be a Floyd and just be like, I don't really care. But like, yeah, I think athletes need to find their own, like, niche in terms of like, here's the things I want to talk about and do it respectively. Also, I think as fans, we shouldn't look at athletes as like the oracle on anything.
Agreed.
Because like they play sports for a living. So no matter what it is they're talking about, they don't have the invested time to speak on anything other than playing sports. Now they can have opinions and ideas about things, but like there's people out there who all they do is talk about that thing. So maybe they're not as famous as LeBron and don't have like 300 million followers, but like let's get them both to talk. Let's get them both on a panel.
Amen to that.
You know, and I like how LeBron has, you know, his show, is it The Shop?
The Shop.
Yeah, where he's bringing people from different industries to talk about those issues, and like, you know, he gets to speak, and you know, and they get to talk. I think that's the way to do it. Is like let's have everyone on together, people from that industry as well as celebrities and people we like from different industries that are popular, as well as the expert.
That almost sounds like I just want to know.
Kind of does.
It does.
Right? Interesting. Interesting, right? For real.
All right.
For real.
All right. Well, this wraps up our episode with this.
Yes, sir.
Man, we got a lot of good topics.
Yeah,
and
man.
I guess we might have a potential LeBron James versus Michael Jordan podcast.
I'm all for it.
Oh my God. Let's go. I'm
you might
ready
be surprised on what side I'm on. I would tell you right now, I'm a big-time Chicago Bulls fan.
Oh.
But you'll probably be surprised with the slant I take.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I hope everybody has a phenomenal Friday.
Yes.
Love you guys. Thank you guys very much.
Peace.
Follow us on
Please
YouTube.
Yeah.
Subscribe, share, everything like that. And we out.
Later.